How is it going, everybody? Thank you so much for tuning in today's video. As the title of the video says, we will be diving into the Metal Slug 3 crossover armaments that have kind of come into play with the new, essentially the new heroes and the new event and everything here in the Doomsday Slug. You'll see that there are a few of the armaments in here that I have been getting repeated questions on from players of all sizes. Basically just asking what my thoughts are on the armaments themselves, where are they best utilized, and really if any of them are worth going for. I'm going to kind of remove myself from the bias of the direction that IGG is kind of headed down, obviously, that has been discussed in my previous videos, along with the community and such of IGG. Excuse me, sorry. IGG and their push for really wanting to get money out of the game and such. It is a business thing. So while I do have an opinion on that and others have opinions on that, really the sole focus of this video is to kind of just go over the armaments themselves, take a look at them, take a look at what benefits they provide, where they might be best utilized, and really if they are kind of worth going for, because they are, some of them especially are very strong armaments depending on what role that you are playing. And we'll kind of do a comparison of those superb armaments compared to the current existing superb armaments for infantry, and those that live out there, and really if it would benefit you to go for them if you're on the whaling side of things or are looking to spend and are looking to potentially upgrade your armaments. To answer the first question out the gate, because again I've been asked this quite a bit, if I'm going to go for the armaments, me personally I'm not going to, although there are a few pieces that are very beneficial for the garrison side of things. I'm kind of at the point right now where I don't really want to rehone my my particular armaments. While some of the pieces again would be very beneficial, like for here, I don't have my superb pants all the way up on infantry because my superb pants for ranged were kind of the primary focal point. I still have to get some honing done on my my range set, so I'm a couple pieces away from getting a 5-star superb on my ranged helmet. I believe I'm one away from getting a superb 5-piece on my boots for my ranged, and so I'll be able to get the 5th slot there. So I'm going to be focusing all my honing there, so not trying to defer away from the video, but I have been asked that quite a bit if as an infantry main I was going to go for the new armaments, and the short and simple answer is no. While they would be beneficial and such, I just kind of have other focal points, and I think that my armaments and then hones themselves that I already have, all my armaments are already in a place that benefit me a lot in terms of garrison, and changing them over for some new armaments would really just be me min-maxing, and I don't spend to that caliber or degree where min-maxing is something that's necessary for me. I think that depending on what G bracket you're in, if you're in the upper G 1 to 3 brackets, the min-maxing is far more important there than if you were to do it, say, outside of those G brackets, or in this case, like if you're going to be in the Apex bracket or plan on being consistently in the Apex bracket of Genesis War, Archipelago Raid, taking a look at the new armaments and such can definitely, maybe better some of your existing reports based on which role and such you're playing in. And so we will kind of cover which armaments to look for and which ones to focus on of the Metal Slug 3 series that would benefit you based on those roles. So without further ado, let's go ahead and just dive into these armaments real quick. Again, I know that you can cover some of the armaments within the game itself, but I'm actually going to defer to their website where all this information is actually available. You can kind of go over the whole event, see the heroes, the squad skins, the armaments, the shelter skins, and everything that's going to be kind of involved with this event. If you haven't seen this page already, I will go ahead and link this in the description of the video itself, so then you can kind of take a look at this as well. This was actually provided in one of the mailers that went out, so if you accidentally deleted the mail or maybe if you overlooked it, this is a kind of a tool or resource that is available to you, and this covers the helmet, the chest piece, the weapon, and the backpack at the moment. I believe, let me take a look here before I kind of dive into that further. Yeah, it doesn't really show on those ones. I think these might be the only 4 pieces that kind of, oh wait, there we go. Now I was gonna say I thought boots were also involved in this. So boots, backpack, weapon, chest piece, and helmet are the primary pieces we're going to be looking at here, and then legs. There we go. See, that's what I thought. It's being kind of buggy, so a little bit finicky. So all 6 pieces are actually in here. That's what I thought. There are obviously no devices on this. There are new devices that are coming out and such that we can cover in another video. But again, the focus is going to be primarily on these 6. So starting at the very beginning here, the Marcos headband, Infantry Squad lethality 120, which is already very high. Infantry Squad damage 3.8%. Infantry Squad attack of 9%. Let's go ahead and compare that to what we currently have. So currently it's block at 100. Let me move this over a little bit. Block is at 100 for the max basic attribute, 3.2% squad damage reduction, and then 6.8 defense on is essentially the 5-star basic attributes that you can get on the current Superb helmet for infantry. So taking a look, a 9% squad attack, that's going to be about not necessarily 50%, but a little bit closer to 40%, 40, maybe 35% higher than the defense max hone of 6.8, or not max hone, sorry, but max basic attribute of 6.8. So 6.8 to a 9% increase there is fairly large. And actually, I'll kind of move it over like this, and we can kind of look at it this way here. Lethality 120 being 20 higher than the block. That's a 20% increase. So pretty solid there as well. And then, of course, you're trading the 3.2% squad damage reduction for 3.8 squad damage. My take on this is that the current Superb helmet is far superior in terms of if you are going to be a garrison-focused infantry player. I would stick to the anti-blast helmet because the block, the damage reduction, and squad defense are all very important pieces. While yes, dealing more damage and having higher attack and lethality and such is also important, lethality is going to be a multiplier to your base stats of attack, defense, and HP. So in this case, primarily the attack. So if you are, say, an infantry rally player, or if you are going to be focusing on your infantry field march, this is definitely a huge cop for yourself, or something that you'll want to pick up. If you are somebody that is looking to go towards the new Superb armaments, the headband piece itself is very, very high tier for field and rally infantry players, not as much so for a garrison player. So to clarify, the Marcos headband, if you are a field march player for infantry, or an infantry rally player, the Marcos headband is definitely one that you want to take a look at. If you are a garrison player, I would stick with the anti-blast helmet. Next piece is going to be the Marcos Combat Vest with 144 lethality, 7.2% skill damage dealt, and 7.2% squad capacity. We're going to compare and contrast that to 8.2% squad HP, 6% or minus 6% on skill damage taken by troop, and then 120 on squad block. So 120 to 144, same thing, almost a 20% increase. Or actually, it is a 20% increase, sorry, from the block max to the lethality max. And then 7.2% skill damage dealt is, no small feat. That is a pretty good number there, actually. And then squad capacity, 7.2%. So squad capacity, my thoughts on that is that really the only time that it's going to impact you is in the field, obviously. With rallies, yes, you'll be able to put more troops into your rally itself. However, that doesn't actually increase the squad rally size. If this was a squad rally capacity, that would be one thing, but it's just squad capacity. So this is only going to impact your field marches themselves. So this could be viable from a rally standpoint, because squad HP may not be the most important factor to you. Maybe you're just looking to run, say, a Miyamoto Adut or a Miyamoto Jin or an Eddie Jin type rally, and you are just looking to deal as much damage as possible, whatever have you. The skill damage dealt there can definitely be a nice little boost for you in terms of your rallies. However, when I think of infantry rallies, I mostly think of your rally being the tank rally. If you were, say, an Archipelago raid where you can have up to 3 rallies on a tower, ideally you want to have an infantry rally hit the tower first, so you can be tanking the damage itself, since you will have likely the highest defense, highest block, and highest base stats in terms of your damage mitigation. And so you are absorbing all of the damage, especially now where you see a lot of chasey garrisons, which absolutely demolish and melt ranged rallies. There's, even more so of a presence necessary to have an infantry rally player that is able to rally into those chasey garrisons and tank the damage, even more so than before where chasey wasn't involved, and the same principle still applied where you want to have an infantry rally be the first rally to hit the tower, tank the damage, and then send your second and third rallies as ranged or rider rallies. That way they can deal the most damage and not take a ton of damage at the same time. So in terms of a rally player, yes, if you are going to go on the offensive, this is a decent vest to have. So, call it a B tier Infantry Rally Vest. If you are in the field, skill damage dealt, lethality, and squad capacity are all going to benefit you, especially the squad capacity piece. So call this an S tier vest for field. And then if you are looking to play garrison, I would still stick with the anti-blast armor, because squad HP is a huge component in terms of your survivability. For your garrison itself, obviously all 3 rallies are going to be dealing skill damage to you, so the fact that you have a skill damage mitigation here is going to be a huge piece as well. This is also a solid piece to have on rallies, because again, it's going to make your rally much more tankier in regards to tanking the tower itself, and then being the first rally that hits the tower. Ideally, you are going to be the primary focal point of skill damage being dealt to rallies from the garrison itself, if they have like a Riven or if they have a Victor. This is going to help reduce that damage. Obviously, if they have something like a Louis or something like that, you know, it may not be as, it may not be as important if you're the second or third rally hitting the tower itself, unless, again, they are using like a Louis or something like that there, where it's dealing skill damage to all 3 rallies instead of just one. So again, anti-blast armor I would use on garrison. Marco's combat vest I would use in the field. There's arguments to use either one of them for rallies, depending on really like what role your rally or your infantry rally itself is, and what role you play in all that as a player. Taking a look at the next one, we're going to look at Marco's rifle here. Let me just go ahead and pull up the barbed machine gun as well. So Marco's rifle, we're going to be looking at 144 block, minus 7.2% on the skill damage taken, and then a minus 10.8% on AoE damage taken as well. Now for the AoE damage taken portion, in terms of garrison, that's not going to matter too much, because you are going to be the target of the rallies themselves, or you're going to be the target of the rallies, and so the AoE factor doesn't really involve you too much, because you're going to be dealt the most amount of damage. So if somebody's hitting you with a Julia and Louis, for example, the primary and the bulk of the skill damage itself is going to be dealt to you, and then the AoE damage is going to be dispersed to surrounding marches, surrounding counter rallies, and things like that. So that part doesn't really apply too much. That would apply more so in the field if you are just in a huge cluster and you're fighting. At that point, the AoE damage taken may, you know, play a little bit more of an effect. In terms of the actual skill damage taken, though, in the block, those are definitely really, really great for whether you're the initial rally hitting the tower itself, and that's just reducing the skill damage even further. And then, of course, the block itself there. If you are on the garrison side of things, obviously all 3 rallies, or up to 3 rallies, are dealing skill damage to you, so that's a nice mitigation factor. And then block as well. Taking a look at the barbed machine gun, we have 6% skill damage dealt, 120 lethality, 8.2% attack. So the squad attack is going to be more applicable than the AoE damage taken in my eyes as a third attribute for all 3 roles. For all 3 being field, rally, or garrison. That's more applicable in my eyes than the AoE damage taken. So that's a +1 towards the barbed machine gun. The skill damage dealt as opposed to skill damage taken would be primarily, and you could argue this as well if you're running a say like a Victor on your garrison, and you have high garrison skill damage hones, or high garrison attack hones, and your garrison is highly dependent on dealing skill damage through Victor, through Riven, through say like Louis, for example, whatever have you. Skill damage dealt can be argued from the barbed machine gun itself to actually be a very good attribute for garrison as well. However, on a more consistent basis, the Marco's rifle with the skill damage taken would be a nice benefit there. And then obviously with lethality, that would be your garrison dealing more damage to the rallies themselves, as opposed to taking less damage from the Marco's rifle. So I would say that the Marco's rifle is good for garrison. It is also good for being the primary rally. It is great for in the field, which is something you're going to kind of hear quite often, is that it seems like a lot of these armaments in my eyes are built for the field presence, which mirrors the fact that in my review that I did for the new hero itself, he's a very field oriented hero. He's not really to be utilized in garrisons or rallies, so the fact that the armaments are tuned towards field play does make sense. So in my eyes, you can't go wrong using barbed machine gun on garrison because you'll be dealing more skill damage. Like I personally run Rigoro Riven primarily on most of my garrisons. There are plenty of other opportunities where I might run something paired alongside Victor. So, you know, that skill damage delta is also there. So, you know, a lot of room to be able to say that the barbed machine gun does well. Not to mention that your third basic attribute is actually beneficial to you on garrison as opposed to the AoE damage taken reduction. So I would maybe argue to say that the barbed machine gun is better in those two senses. However, again, the skill damage taken side of things, plus the fact that it's a block, means that you'll be taking less damage altogether. So you'll take less damage with Marco's rifle, but you'll deal more damage on garrison with barbed machine guns. So that kind of gives you an idea. If you want to take less damage, maybe go Marco's. If you want to deal more damage as a roll on garrison, maybe the barbed machine gun. For rallies, I would probably stick to the barbed machine gun itself to get your skill damage dealt out, because that's always going to be hitting 100% of the time towards the garrison target itself. Your lethality means that you're going to be dealing more damage, and same thing with squad attack. So I would roll the barbed machine gun if you were an infantry rally player, and then in the field itself, I would definitely go the Marco's rifle. Unless, again, you want to play more of an aggressive field play where the barbed machine gun does all three of these benefit your actual field play as well. So barbed machine gun, more aggressive player. Marco's rifle, a little bit more on the defensive side of things. Marco's backpack. Let me go ahead and pull up the superb backpack here for back armor as well. So infantry squad lethality of 96, squad basic attack damage of 7.2, counter damage taken of minus 7.2. Now this is I would say a D tier for garrison. For one, if you take a look at my video that I cover in terms of like the rallies and the garrisons and the way that damage works in the game itself, you will know that basic attack damage from a garrison standpoint, you're only dealing basic attack damage to 1 out of 3 rallies that are hitting you at once, but you are dealing counter damage to all 3. All 3 rallies are dealing basic attack damage to you, but only one of them, the primary rally or initial rally that hits you, is actually dealing counter damage to you. So you don't really actually see much benefit from the counter damage taken side of things from a garrison standpoint. You don't really see much benefit from the squad's basic attack damage in multi-rally scenarios. So both of these are kind of pointless from a multi-rally scenario from a garrison standpoint. So that already kind of puts it very low tier. For an infantry rally player, however, it's the complete opposite. You're only taking counter damage from the garrison itself as a rally player, whether you're the first rally that hits the second or the third rally, it doesn't really matter. And you're always only dealing, you're always dealing basic attack damage to the tower itself as a rally player. You're always dealing skill damage, and you're always dealing basic attack damage. So this is great for that as well. And then obviously with lethality, you're dealing more damage. So I would say that this is an S tier backpack for infantry rally players. This would also be an S tier backpack for the field, because again, whether the field march that you're targeting is hitting or is directly targeting you back, you're always dealing basic attack damage to it. And if that target march that you're hitting is hitting somebody else, that white number that keeps popping up over your troops to show how much damage you're taking is actually the counter damage being taken as well. So this is an S tier backpack for infantry field and infantry infantry field and infantry rally players. And then the back armor itself is much more in line for garrison players itself, again, because you're dealing squad counter damage as a basic attribute, and you're dealing counter damage to all 3 rallies as a garrison. You're taking basic attack damage from all 3 rallies, so a reduction in that is huge. And then of course, no argument in taking some more attack to be able to dish out more damage with those counter attacks that you're actually doing with the squad counter damage. The next piece we'll take a look at here is the Marco's military boots. Let me go ahead and just pull up the superb boots on this end. So infantry squad block of 96. Infantry squad HP of 7.2 and basic attack damage of minus 7.2. So this to me is great for the garrison side of things, because as our notes that we were just kind of taking here in terms of the counter and basic attack damage, you are taking basic attack damage from all 3 rallies itself as a garrison. So a reduction in that from all 3 rallies is already huge. It's going to benefit you in multi-rally, single rally scenarios, doesn't matter what it is. This is great stat for garrisons. Squad HP, I've already talked about the importance of that stat and how well it does for all of your troops altogether. And then obviously block is more damage mitigation. So I would rank this as an S tier type boot for garrisons. Taking a look at the iron armored boots here, squad's basic attack damage of 6%. You're only going to be dealing that as garrison towards the initial rally itself. Counter damage taken, you're only taking counter damage from the initial rally or the primary rally that hits you, not the other 2. So this, again, isn't that effective. And then same thing with the 6% attack. That's great, but the damage mitigation from the boots itself can be far superior. So the iron armor boots I would use for an infantry rally or infantry field, because again, rallies are always dealing basic attack damage. You're always taking counter damage from the garrison itself, and then in the field that also same principle applies. So iron armor boots if you're going to be in the field, or an infantry rally player. Marco's military boots if you're going to be on the garrison side of things. And then the Marco's pants, I think in this case I'll probably just have to use one of these other ones. Let's see, range, squad damage. I believe it's just the same stats across the board. Infantry squad, yeah, okay. So don't mind the fact that it says range, squad damage here. Just replace range with infantry. The stats are all going to be the same. So infantry squad block 120, infantry squad damage reduction minus 3.8, and squad counter damage at 9%. I would rank these as an S tier again for garrison. With the block being good for damage mitigation, obviously an overall squad damage reduction is going to be huge as well, considering you can be taking up to 3 rallies at once. So the more of that damage that you can mitigate on a flat basis or on a consistent basis is great. And then, of course, you're doing counter damage to whether it be 1, 2, or 3 rallies at a time. You're always doing counter damage to those rallies as well. So I would rank these as S tier for garrison, not as high for rallies and field play, because again, squad counter damage, it's going to require somebody to be targeting you. The squad damage reduction obviously can be great in the field as well. Same thing with the block, but usually in the field or on rallies, you want to be dishing some damage as well. So where you have lethality, a flat damage boost, and attack with the current superb pants for infantry, that would primarily be where I would focus on for field and for rallies. That way I could dish more damage out. I'm already going to have a high amount of damage mitigation from high defensive and HP stats for infantry troops. So, focusing a little bit more of my stats into the offensive side of things if I'm playing as a rally player or in the field is probably the direction that I would go in your case. So, current superb pants for rally and field players. Marco's combat pants if you are primarily focused on playing as a garrison player. And I believe that covers actually all 6 of them already. So just as a quick highlight and recap, Marco's combat pants for garrison, Marco's military boots for garrison as well, Marco's backpack for rally and for field players. Marco's rifle can be a hybrid mix of both. I'll kind of let you decide on that one. However, I guess, if money isn't a factor, go for it. But I guess really the argument kind of comes down to how good are your hones on your existing armament, and if you're willing to have to go through the rehoning process basically to get your hones back up after this is to 5 stars. But you can make an argument that AoE damage taken is a fairly useless basic attribute stat, whereas maybe not everybody wants to have the additional attack there basically, or really, again, this one's a little bit more on the defensive side, the Marco's rifle, or the barbed machine gun has a little bit more offensive with skill damage dealt versus skill damage taken. So that's completely up to you on, I would say, again, this is probably focused more on the defensive side of things because of the block and the skill damage taken. But because of the fact that the third basic attribute itself isn't the best, as opposed to just a flat squad attack, there could be arguments that even the barbed machine gun could be more superior in a garrison basis. So I'll completely leave that to you. This is leaning a little bit more on the defensive side though, for sure. Marco's combat vest, skill damage dealt, lethality, and squad capacity. This is only going to be used for field. Do not get this and cop this if you are going to be playing as a focus on rallies or garrisons. Again, taking a look here, you have squad HP already as a third basic attribute stat. So I would not be utilizing this in a garrison scenario whatsoever. As for rallies, the anti-blast armor does have a reduction in skill damage taken, and with garrisons, for a lot of parts, and from what I see most of the time, garrisons are mostly using single target skill damage heroes. So if you are the primary rally that's going to be hitting the tower, the skill damage taken by troop is definitely a great stat to have. However, if you're not focused on being the first rally to hit the tower itself, and so you may not be taking skill damage, and you're just going to be throwing infantry rallies all the time anyways because that's your best armament set, there could be an argument to say that the Marco's combat vest could be a good focal point for you as a rally player to increase your skill damage dealt and then your lethality going up as well. And then for the headband itself, lethality, squad damage, and attack. This is going to be great for rally players, whereas on this side, a damage reduction, a defense, and a block is primarily going to be better for the garrison players. So the headband I would focus on if you are in the rally segment for infantry players or the field segment for infantry players, and then I would maybe focus more on the anti-blast helmet being your best piece if you are on the garrison side for the damage reduction, the block, and the defense all being damage mitigators. So when you're in triple rally scenarios, you're going to see a better trade or a better report basically by running these basic attributes as opposed to these basic attributes is really what I'm trying to say. So yeah, that kind of summarizes all of this in terms of the new armaments itself. I know that this is, can be a lengthy video, but I have received quite a few messages on this. And really what the benefits are. A lot of the questions kind of resided around if I was going to pick them up. If I was going to pick them up, my obvious choices would be back here with the pants and the boots itself, as those are, definitely superior than the current ones that we have here, especially on the boot side of things. However, the actual spend for them themselves, I'm just maybe not too interested in spending right now, or spending as much necessary to get all those pieces, where I already have pretty decent hones on my stuff already, and I don't really feel like re-honing them. So yeah, I mean, that's kind of where I'm at with it. I hope that, the information kind of helps you as a player if you're somebody that was taking a look at getting these hero armaments and really what benefit it might have to you. I know that not all players are going to go after these and max them out and such, but for those that are, maybe this kind of gives you an idea of which ones to focus on first, or maybe which ones to focus on as a hybrid running between the Metal Slug hero armaments and then the existing Superb armaments as well, to make sure that you are kind of min-maxing your character to get the most benefit out of it, depending on what role that you're playing. Obviously, if there's any questions, concerns about this, anything that you want me to elaborate further on or go into a deeper dive on in regards to the armaments themselves, please do not hesitate to leave a comment down below. I respond to all comments and basically any capacity that I can, so I will definitely look to respond to you as quickly as I can there as well. Please feel free to reach out to me in game also. I get plenty of messages from you all already, but in case you don't know where I'm at or where I exist in region 164. Actually, we just took over our sister alliance here in BBQ that was kind of needing some assistance with their leadership stuff, so we kind of merged our alliance into there to kind of help with that. So yeah, region 164 right in this area here in BBQ. Please feel free to find me, send me a message in game, and I will be happy to answer any questions that you all may have. Again, thank you all so much for supporting the channel as you continuously do. I cannot begin to thank you guys enough for that. If you haven't already, please hit the subscribe button down below, hit the like button, and that way this video and this information can get out to those that need it. Other than that, guys, I hope you all have a wonderful rest of your week. Happy Wednesday, and I will see you guys in the next one. Thank you so much. See you.